Hello. Today I really wanted to share with you a few stories. This very first story is a favorite in our household, and it's a story that I like to read during this time of year because it has to do with the springtime. So I'm going to be reading from a book today called Frog and Toad Are Friends. And the very first story to read from this book is called Springtime. And I have this book right here, which is an anthology of all of the Frog and Toad stories by Arnold Lobel. Spring. Frog ran up the path to Toad's house. He knocked on the front door. There was no answer. "Toad, Toad," shouted Frog, "wake up, it's spring." "Blah," said a voice from inside the house. "Toad, Toad," cried Frog, "the sun is shining, the snow is melting, wake up." "I am not here," said the voice. Frog walked into the house. It was dark. All of the shutters were closed. "Toad, where are you?" called Frog. "Go away," said the voice from a corner of the room. Toad was lying in bed. He pulled the covers all over his head. Frog pushed Toad out of bed. He pushed him out of the house and onto the front porch. Toad blinked in the bright sun. "Help!" cried Toad. "I cannot see anything." "Don't be silly," said Frog. "What you see is clear, warm light of April. It means that we can begin a whole new year together, Toad. Think of it," said Frog. "We will skip through the meadows and run through the woods and swim in the river. And in the evenings, we will sit right here on this front porch and count the stars." "You can count them, Frog," said Toad. "I will be too tired. I am going back to bed." Toad went back into the house. He got into bed and pulled the covers over his head again. "But Toad," cried Frog, "you will miss all of the fun." "Listen, Frog," said Toad. "How long have I been asleep?" "You have been asleep since November," said Frog. "Well then," said Toad, "a little more sleep will not hurt me. Come back again and wake me up at 1/2 May. Good night, Frog." "But Toad," said Frog, "I will be lonely until then." Toad did not answer. He had fallen asleep. Frog looked at Toad's calendar. The November page was still on the top. Frog tore off the November page. He tore off the December page, and the January page, and the February page, and the March page. He came to the April page. Frog tore the April page off too. Then Frog ran back to Toad's bed. "Toad, Toad, wake up! It is May now." "What?" said Toad. "Can it be May so soon?" "Yes," said Frog. "Look at your calendar." Toad looked at the calendar. The May page was on top. "Why, it is May," said Toad as he climbed out of bed. Then he and Frog ran outside to see how the world was looking in the spring. The next story I'm going to read is also about springtime. And it's a story that I very much enjoy because it helps us to look forward to springtime. And right now I'm just looking in the table of contents to find that story. And this is a part of the book that shows you where each of the different stories are, so you can jump right to them. And I'm going to jump to page 146 and see if I can find that story here. Here it is. The Corner. Frog and Toad were caught in the rain. They ran to Frog's house. "I am all wet," said Toad. "The day is spoiled." "Have some tea and cake," said Frog. "The rain will stop. If you stand near the stove, your clothes will soon be dry." "I will tell you a story while we are waiting," said Frog. "Oh," said Toad. "When I was small, not much bigger than a pollywog," said Frog, "my father said to me, 'Son, this is a cold gray day, but spring is just around the corner.' I wanted spring to come. I went out to find that corner. I walked down a path in the woods until I came to a corner. I went around that corner to see if spring was on the other side." "And was it?" asked Toad. "No," said Frog. "There was only a pine tree, 3 pebbles, and some dry grass. I walked in the meadow. Soon I came to another corner. I went around the corner to see if spring was there." "Did you find it?" asked Toad. "No," said Frog. "There was only an old worm asleep on a tree stump." "I walked along the river until I came to another corner. I went around the corner to look for spring." "Was it there?" asked Toad. "No," said Frog. "There was only some wet mud and a lizard who was chasing his tail." "You must have been tired," said Toad. "I was tired," said Frog, and it started to rain. "I went back home. When I got there," said Frog, "I found another corner. It was the corner of my house." "Did you go around it?" asked Toad. "I went around that corner too," said Frog. "What did you see?" asked Toad. "I saw the sun coming out," said Frog. "I saw the birds sitting and singing in a tree. I saw my mother and father working in their garden. And I saw flowers in the garden too." "You found it!" cried Toad. "Yes," said Frog. "I was very happy. I had found the corner that spring was just around." "Look, Frog," said Toad. "You were right. The rain has stopped." Frog and Toad hurried outside, and they ran around the corner of Frog's house to make sure that spring had come again. And that is the end of our 2 Frog and Toad stories for today.